Welcome. Good afternoon.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to our table talk on the certainty trap, and welcome to everyone who's watching the recording later. We know many people choose that option. And on that note, watch your inboxes because we're going to be sending out a poll in the near future to establish if maybe we need to consider some different things around our timing. So we always love your feedback. And we love these table talks because we know really the strength of community has the power to change the world. And so we're really dedicated at expanding you to building a community where we can be together to learn and hopefully learn things that support us in living with more courage, joy, and open-heartedness, because we believe that's what the world needs more of. So thank you all for joining us. And I'd love to hear when you read about, obviously, this is part one of a series, right? And so I'd love to know if there was anything in particular that led you to sign on for this conversation, anything you're hoping to walk away with, anything that caught your curiosity. Feel free to drop it in the chat or share. Love to know.
I'm simply just a challenged human and always looking for a helping hand.
That's fair, Dave. Me
Oh,
too.
Dave, we thought you'd love this topic.
I love all the topics. It's a good one for sure.
Awesome. Oh, great. Anything else anyone was hoping to learn today, or anything that piqued your curiosity with the topic or the series in general? Okay. Awesome.
All right. Well, let's ask a different question. So when you think about certainty, what value do you place on it? What are your thoughts when I ask you about that? First thoughts that come to mind when you think about certainty. Love it, hate it.
Well, if I was to share, I place a lot of value on feeling certain. So much so I would likely hurt myself and others to create it.
Okay, thank you, Dave, for your honesty. I don't think you're alone. Yeah. Katie?
Yeah, I was gonna say similar. I think it definitely makes me feel a little bit more grounded when I know what to expect, or if I've been able to create that sense of certainty around something.
Yeah.
It's comfortable.
Yeah.
Good word.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? I see some nodding of heads. Sherry, are you resonating?
Just feels like there isn't much these days.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Sorry to be the one to say it, but
Yeah,
especially living in the US.
yeah. Very, very much so. Okay, so then what does it mean when we think of uncertain or uncertainty? How does that code for you?
That might fit well
The
with
uncomfortable.
Sherry's. Yeah,
Oh,
there
sorry.
you go.
Katie?
I just was saying it's the opposite, like completely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The unknown, or just being uncertain about things, future relationships. It's not easy.
Feels
Yeah.
vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's really what we're going to be digging into today, is almost the love-hate relationship. Loving certainty, because as you said, Katie, giving us a sense of control, safety, predictability, maybe, etc., confidence in our choices. But the other side is how it can become a trap. So when we cling to certainty, what happens? Do we close off to new possibilities? Do we resist change? Do we avoid the unknown? And, that the unknown is where growth and transformation often happens. So we're posing the question, what if our need for certainty and our love of it actually isn't supporting us as much as we think it is? And that it could become a trap. So that's where we're exploring. And so let's look at some signposts that were trapped in our attachment to certainty. Thank you, Jeff. So, any of those words resonate? When we're clinging to certainty, do we get a little defensive? Are we making assumptions? Do we slide into debating, convincing, judging, advice giving? Oh, I don't like that one on the list. Or believing we already know, fill in the blank, without looking any deeper. So these are some signposts for us to use. Some of them may resonate more strongly. Some of them may be our favorites. And so what we want to do today is we're going to share 3 scenarios where we can take a little deeper look at the role and how certainty comes into play. So Jeff, over to
Excellent. So I
you.
will start with scenario 1. We're going to look at a team leader, Kevin. Kevin's 42-year-old project manager at a successful company. And he's been praised for his decisiveness and his ability to get things done. He prides himself on being efficient and being on it, which he is good at. But lately, his team has been disengaged. He received feedback in his 360 review that some team members feel steamrolled by the meetings. And it's like he's not taking their input in, or it doesn't seem to matter to him. Kevin brushes this feedback off, thinking they just can't keep up. I'm not here to coddle their feelings. He feels certain that his approach is working because deadlines are met and upper management isn't complaining. But over time, the turnover starts to increase, morale drops, and a key member eventually resigns, telling him privately, "You don't listen, you assume you know best, and that's why I'm leaving." So looking at this scenario, I'd love you to either put your hand up and answer or put in the chat. What is Kevin so certain about?
Can we just change it to Dave on that scenario?
Oh my gosh, this isn't when I say if the shoe fits.
So Dave, what would you be so certain about then?
Yeah, touche. Help us.
Well, that I know what's best for everybody, and that I got my finger on the pulse of what's needed, the strategies or the bigger, maybe I would say in this case, if I was Kevin, you know what I mean? I might be looking at it at a 10,000 foot view, like looking at like knowing that I think I see the whole picture versus it being, and then the view of the team might be more I might view that as a small scale, I mean, and maybe not relevant to the daily challenge. Discounting their world in a way.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
Mhm.
Really certain about the big picture. Things just seem to be working on that level.
Mhm.
Perfect.
And Katie's sharing that he's certain that his way is the right way and only way. Great way of summarizing it. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so next question. What is in Kevin's blind spot, or what is he dismissing, or what information is he leaving out?
And I think Dave sort of alluded to that, right? In terms of maybe he's dismissing or not thinking about the other people's feelings or opinions, right? And Kristen and Michael are just sharing that the other people don't agree with him, right? He's dismissing that, or that he's not recognizing that aspect.
Absolutely. Any other things that he's leaving out or dismissing? I think we definitely can see he's dismissing the perspective of the team for sure. Also, I would say he's dismissing the value of feedback in some way, thinking that it's not important enough.
Mhm. Yeah, and even in that high view that Dave was mentioning, he's dismissing just the value of having conversation about it, right? Of teamwork, including that bit of back and forth element, regardless of who's right or wrong, but just giving people the chance to feel heard.
You know,
Yeah,
I
I
heard
was going there too, Leslie. It's like it seems almost like it's in his blind spot that it takes the team to deliver. Like, yeah.
so true. And then Sherry's saying it's all about him. Others' opinions don't matter. They aren't important. I'm going to say something that I'm not a political person, but I heard this the other day and I think it applies here. It's quite, I found it quite funny, but this person was talking about, you know, the goods and bads of our economy. And he said this really, I thought, powerful statement. He said, Trump's not a leader, he's a winner. So he just sees the world in winning and losing.
Yeah.
The leader is collaborative, the leader is inclusive. And Trump doesn't really have those skills. And I thought, like I said, I don't follow any of it much, but I thought, well, that's really a brilliant way of saying it. And I'm seeing this scenario here can be somebody can fall into leadership is winning, getting it done, productivity, and forgetting the collaboration, forgetting that there's connection involved for the team to work well together. So certainty can cause that. Okay, next question. So what fears are underneath Kevin's behaviors? What is he afraid of?
Dave's
Sorry,
face says he's
Dave.
got the answer.
I don't even want to
That's so-
expose myself anymore.
It's so cute, Dave. I
I'll
like
go
it.
out on a limb and say Kevin, in this case, this far removed character that we're talking about, would be his identity would be at stake of being incompetent at his job, would be one that pops to my mind.
Yeah, that's a great one for sure.
Absolutely.
In the chat, I see
Yeah,
Michael or
Michael,
Kristen has put being wrong. He doesn't want to look like he's wrong. I agree.
Mhm.
He doesn't want to look like he loses credibility if he's not on point. Maybe that could come up for him.
Mhm.
Any other fears?
And Katie's sharing he's failing, fear of failure, because it seems that if he does that, he doesn't trust his team. Right? Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, excellent.
I've also heard, through the grapevine, that you could also just he may perceive it just slows things down, like getting everyone's opinion and all that sort of stuff would just slow the process down. And so the perception would be, it would just be a speed bump to success.
Oh, that's a great example too. You could, right, just muddies things up. So he's afraid of slowing the process down instead of getting to productivity, getting to the deadline.
Focus on
Very
productivity.
focused on the task over the relationship.
Super task focused, yeah.
Which I think loops back to Katie's, doesn't it? Now he's failing because it's not as fast or productive or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm a visual person, so I'm going to share a slide that for our work explains what's happening for Kevin here. So we just talked about what Kevin's certain about. Certainties will be his beliefs. So he's certain he's doing it right. He's certain his way is the best. And so that leads him to feeling this level of confidence that has him reoccurring experiences or behaving in certain ways of how he runs the team and how he handles things. And then he looks for the proof that supports his certainty or his belief. And so he says, well, we're meeting the deadlines. And I mean, no one upper management's complained. Therefore, I am doing it right. And what I'm doing is best. And so then he's stuck in this triangle. And underpinning that belief would be the fears we just talked about. So that belief itself is a limiting belief, which means fear is in that belief in the stuck triangle. And when we're in this stuck triangle, for anyone who hasn't seen this before, we are not allowing in new information. So it fits extremely well for this scenario. The new information would take you over to the growth triangle. If you've done inner balance, you'll seen the video on the difference. And so inside of his limiting belief, there is a fear of inadequacy. If I take feedback, it means I'm not good at what I do. There's a fear of losing control or authority. So if it opens up to others' perspectives, he could lose his edge or his credibility. A fear of vulnerability. You know, Dave, you're nailing this one too as well. Listening to the critiques of others can make him feel like he's exposed as uncertain, or he doesn't know, he's not, good at leading. Or he can have this fear of not being valuable. And if I'm not the one with the answers, then what's my role? Am I really a leader? And Dave, you're pointing to that one too. So as we go through these other scenarios, hold some of that frame in mind. And it'll help you get to the certainty and the belief and how they get stuck.
Well, and I just want to point out happening in that stuck triangle is that what he's so certain about, he's certain he's a good leader and effective at his job, and that certainty is actually undermining his efficacy. So the certainty actually ultimately ends up blocking him from the very thing he's certain about, right? And that's where certainty becomes this trap that we can so easily miss.
And blocks him then, Leslie, from doing the behaviors that would get some new information into the system. He's not going to ask questions that we might think of standing outside of it.
That's right.
I mean, to me, this feels like he's afraid he's not good enough.
Yeah.
And he's actually not good enough because he's afraid he's not good enough. And so on and so on.
Exactly, Sherry. Exactly. You're not much of a leader if nobody's following you, right?
Oh, I got a great one. What do you call someone who's a leader but nobody's following? You call it going for a walk. You are by yourself going for a walk, but nobody's in the parade. Okay, so let's go to another scenario. Now we're going to introduce Jasmine. She's 38 and she's a go-to friend for advice. She's insightful, she's articulate, and always has a solution. When her close friend Sarah begins to struggle in her marriage, Jasmine jumps in with ideas and her opinions. You know, you need to stop letting him walk all over you. You just need to stand up for yourself. And it really seems clear to Jasmine what needs to happen. Sarah, who is overwhelmed and scared, starts pulling away. Jasmine interprets it as ingratitude. I mean, geez, if she didn't want my help, fine. Like, let her figure it out for herself. So, what do you think Jasmine is certain about? Thoughts? You can speak into them. We're a small group, or you can put them in there.
She has it all figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Ask her.
Mm-hmm. She knows the answer, eh? Anything else? Hi, welcome. Yvette. Any other thoughts?
I think she's pretty certain that her friend wants her help, or maybe she started with that certainty, right?
Yeah, that she's sharing, and so she obviously wants me somehow to help, fix, provide an answer. Okay, so what is in Jasmine's blind spot? What's she dismissing or leaving out?
Maybe her friend just needs an ear and not solutions. So Jasmine's not asking her friend, do you want my help or do you just want to talk?
Yeah, thank you, Katie.
Maybe her friend needs some coaching instead of directing.
Right.
Right one.
So in her blind spot is what kind of help would be helpful. Great. Anything else?
I would add maybe that Jasmine is certain of her, input or knowledge in this subject matter, and that it's maybe not, it may be perfect, but it may not be in this circumstance relevant to the person she's talking to. Just her personal experience, maybe, but yeah, just maybe certain that she has the right advice to give.
Yeah, and in that, I think maybe even certain she understands the full picture of the relationship, right?
Very good. Plus, sort of on the edge of what was said is that in her way of doing it, it can make easily, Sarah can start to feel like she's inadequate. She isn't good enough. She's wrong for how she's been handling things. Okay. Good.
The only other thing I thought of was, who am I if nobody needs me?
There we go. And that's really leading into the fear. That's where I was going next, Sherry. So beautiful. What fears are underneath Jasmine's behavior? And Yvette will fill you in a minute on what we're doing. Yeah. What fears would be underpinning Jasmine's behavior of telling Sarah basically what to do?
I was just gonna
Kirsten.
say, oh, sorry.
No, it looks like Kirsten's putting something in the chat. Go ahead, Katie.
I was just gonna say that based on the history of her, like her experiences, is that she's always been the one to offer support and help. And that if her friend says she doesn't want her advice this time, then maybe she feels like, well, what do I have to offer? So maybe losing a friend or just not feeling valued or important or something like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, similar to what Kirsten is saying is she's, afraid she's not going to be helpful, right? And Sherry's pointing out that, yeah, then that undermines her value potentially, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Another possibility to think about is, do you think Jasmine's comfortable with emotional distress? That what if her fear is, if I start acknowledging the pain that Sarah's in, I'm going to be in touch with it and feeling it. And geez, I might feel helpless or worse.
And then we're both drowning.
Yeah, yeah,
That could be a fear for sure.
that's right.
It's easy to stand up high and look down into the hole and say, you need to do this to get out. It's not as easy to jump in the hole and sit down and say, okay, we're here together.
Yeah,
Now what?
right. And I think so often you'll see it if, for example, in grief, people want to help give ideas to move ahead, move along, not be in the grief. And part of that is often protection for, I don't want to sit or be down in that pit, as you said, Sherry, with the person, because then I'm going to feel touched and emotional, perhaps, or whatever. Okay, good. So,
And
Leslie, yeah.
just to kind of wrap that all up then. So we've got the certainty, right? She knows what the problem is and she knows how to fix it. She's got the answers for her friend. And so she's showing up that way, which, is then locking her in this pattern. And in feeling so certain she knows how to help her friend, she's actually creating a feeling of being unsupported in her friend. Her friend is not getting the message that Jasmine thinks she's delivering. Right?
Or the help.
Exactly.
It's the very opposite.
Yeah. So for our last scenario, and similar to Dave in the first one, I don't really know anything personal about this one at all, but let's just say her
Leslie?
name's, yes.
Sorry, can I just let Yvette, we're sharing scenarios, and this is the third one Leslie's about to tell you about, to look at the role certainty plays in each of the scenarios. So Leslie's going to share another scenario for us to think about. Sorry, Leslie.
And then as a group, we're breaking it down with questions after.
So Andrea, we'll call her Andrea, and she's happens to be 39. Weird. Anyways, she's read all the parenting books, knows all about attachment theory and nervous system regulation, knows all about gentle discipline, and can quote, Brene Brown, Gabor Mate, and Dan Siegel like there's no tomorrow. And one night when putting her kid to bed, because these are boy children, not girls. He's melting down. He's feeling overwhelmed, and he starts shouting at her like, "Oh, you're the meanest mom ever. I don't want to go to bed. I hate you." And Andrea feels that tension rising in her chest. Her jaw tightens, and before she knows it, she's snapping at him, and that's enough. Just go to your room. I don't want to hear another word. And then later on, when the house is quiet, Andrea is sitting in her shame about how she showed up. She's, scrolling through social media and just happens to see a post about co-regulation, and she feels that pang of guilt come on. And there's also this little twinge of like, I already know this stuff. Why is it so hard? So what do we think Andrea is certain about?
Well,
So she's,
can I
go
go
ahead.
out on a limb and say she's certain that she knows how to be a good mom?
100%. Absolutely. What else is she certain about? Yeah, so Yvette's saying she's got work to continue doing for sure. Although I don't think in the moment she's certain about that.
No.
I think she's certain of the other side of that coin, isn't she? She's feeling certain that she knows how to do this stuff, right? And I think we could go out on a limb and say she's certain that knowing or understanding automatically equates to doing and being and behaving those ways.
Mhm.
Therein lies the rub. Cognitive knowing does not equal doing and being.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And so what is it that she's dismissing? What are the blind spots in this scenario? I think we can, Yvette's point here, she's got some work to continue doing. I think that is in her blind spot. What else do we think she might be dismissing or missing?
Maybe simply that the kids will throw you for a loop once in a while, and it does enough to discount everything that she's learned up till that point. But also, people have bad days. It could have been a bad day on her part as well. So tired, someone's checking in. I'm tired. It's been a long day. Didn't sleep well. There's could be many other factors that play into this scenario as well. I'm being kind to Andrea, just like I want to be nice to Kevin.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I love so I think especially after that, as she's sitting in the guilt, there's some different things she's dismissing, like the fact that she is a human and it's a marathon, like Sherry said, right? And perhaps she's dismissing her reaction in the moment, like Michael and Kirsten are sharing. And I love what Yvette is saying. In the moment, she was dismissing her physiology, which is such a key point, right? Her clenching jaw, the tension she felt rising, those were her cues giving her the information to maybe take a step back and pause before reacting. Right? And of course, those moments are tricky to seize. That's the work. That's perhaps the work she's got left to do, right? Recognizing those physiological signs that tell her there's a better choice available to her, right?
She's also
And
discussing what's going on for her son. Like there's a reason he's melting down. She's not
Yeah.
reading into it. She's wronging it, saying, okay, knock it off, bedtime.
yeah,
Which seemed
absolutely.
to me like mom needs son to go to bed now. I'm done. I'm pooped, etc. And so even before the altercation, my guess would be she's ignoring her own state of being. She's really tired, et cetera, not knowing how she wants to manage that or even that it's going on.
Mm-hmm. And so, what are the fears underneath this way of showing up? What do we think she's afraid of?
Mm.
I mean, again, just taking a wild guess. My first assumption would be, she's afraid of being a bad mom. Yeah, Sherry, exactly. Failing, right? Fear of doing it wrong. Right? What else might she be afraid of?
Like in the last example, Lynn was sharing about going into the emotions, going into the difficult, unpleasurable emotions, or like say the physiology, she could be afraid of going into that. That could be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. And I like Sherry's naming, being a fraud, right? So I've read all the books and I know all these things and quote all these people and the behavior's not matching. And then we've got Kristen sharing harming her child, Katie saying not feeling loved, right? And I would agree with Jeff as well. There's that fear of slowing down, right? She's so attached to an agenda, right? A schedule that's pushing her to not connect and slow down to meet her child where he's at. What's going on for him? There hasn't been any exploration on that. And Sherry's saying, what's wrong with me as well? Yeah.
Well, then I think a parent could have a fear if I don't set some boundaries, if I don't hold some lines, if I'm not firm on some things. Now I'm a pushover and they're not going to get what they need. They're not going to grow up well and have, the discipline and whatnot. I've got to be the hard line. Could be a fear in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the idea with this whole conversation is it's not to encourage uncertainty, right? We don't want to turn around and start questioning everything we do. That certainly wouldn't be efficient, would it, Dave? But we do also want to leave room to question what we're certain of. One of the things we talk so much about, especially in Inner Balance, is our mind lies to us. What we feel certain about may not be certain at all, right? And so there's opportunity for us to slow down and really notice when we're certain. And I don't know if anybody else picked up on those signposts, but since I know all of you have experienced Inner Balance, all of you here today, didn't those signposts remind you a lot of controlling behaviors? Right? And so certainty is another form of control happening, right?
Yeah.
Well, when we link it to the bigger picture too, obviously we said right at the beginning, everyone's sharing certainty brings a sense of safety, which does fall into our identity continuum under the constructed identity. That's where we want to feel safe. When we really pull back, life is totally unpredictable. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next year. It's that part of our mind that wants security that goes to, okay, if I feel certain, I feel safe. More certainty is better. And then we get into this trap,
Could I add something there, Jeff?
Yeah.
Just what was coming to my mind in the three scenarios was, I know I would relate to Kevin a little bit in your three scenarios. And one of the things we feel we get paid to do is create certainty.
Right.
Like it's almost like we're the paid certainty givers to a situation. I mean, and it's an illusion, I get it, but at the same time we feel it. As a parent, often we are the certainty giver of our family. So again, if that blows up and we feel like a failure in that case, if it blows up in business, we feel like a failure. And then that friend, that wise friend that we call, for advice, or we feel like that's our role. Again, we're trying to give certainty to our friend as well, and give them a wisdom feel to who we are as in their life. So anyways, for me, the top line for all of them is I'm being paid for certainty. I'm a parent, so I'm giving certainty to my family, and I'm that friend that they look to provide certainty.
Well, I think that's a great point too. We're saying it's a virtue that we want a lot of times. It brings stability, it brings guidance. So how do we find this balance? Leslie.
Well, I was just gonna say, I so love that you caught that and pointed that out. And what that makes me think of, Dave, is that then when I reflect on the other end of that, you know, one of the things when I'm coaching leaders, one of the things I'm constantly coaching on them on is show your vulnerability and your uncertainty, because your followers really respect that and lean into that. And as a friend, you know, like Sherry was saying, we don't want the person standing above us telling us how obvious the solution is. We want the friend who's going to sit there and just be with us in our pain or discomfort. And as a parent, I think one of the best things that I can show to my children is that I don't have it all figured out, that none of us do, and all we can do is the best thing we know how to do with the information we have. Right?
In my life in corporate America, I've stayed in at least 3 jobs that were soul crushing because it was certain and it was safe. And what happens if I leave, and am I going to end up being in the poorhouse, whatever that is? And also there was a time in my life where I said, I really want to meet somebody. I want to get married again. And my friends were like, okay, then you have to leave the house.
That makes sense.
But it was certain and it was safe to just stay home.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing that's standing out for me, Leslie, is how much external control psychology is running. That I can make my friend feel better by telling her what to do. I can make my team feel secure. I can make. And that is completely untrue. And yet it's so subtly there in all 3 scenarios, the way Dave pointed it out. It's like it is my responsibility to make them feel secure. And I'm going to use certainty to do it. So, and
Sorry.
yeah.
And they will or they won't feel secure based on what you said. But if you're holding on to the result, I mean,
Whoa.
you know what I mean? Like you're so attached.
Right. But now look where all the pressure is. Now
Mhm.
it's on your shoulders to keep doing what you're doing, to make sure it looks like the bottom line is good, or the top line, or like suddenly you've got the entire burden on you.
Yep.
And they're
And the
not,
child, or as a parent, I think like, oh my gosh, if the child isn't part of the equation of having a great life and turning out well and becoming who they want to be or she wants to be, that's not a partnership. Wow. That's an awful feeling on the part of the parents, the burden.
yeah, and then you're not helping the team members, or in the situation, the child, develop their own sense of self and their own ideas, because they have to keep relying on the certainty you give them.
Yeah.
And so they stay underdeveloped or not so creative, all those sorts of things. It's a great point. I mean, I'm not looking at us to like make certainty a terrible thing. There's a
No.
balance here. I remember when I was in nutrition school, they talk about, you know, good supplements, good vitamins, good things to ingest. And then one of the statements is like, too much of a good thing is not a good thing. So don't think just because something's good, you should just take tons of it. Like, which was my dad's way of thinking, like, oh, vitamin C is good, then I should take 12 of them. No. And it's the same here. There's a balance. There's some certainty needed in certain places for sure. And we can get caught in the trap of it, where it becomes a fear-based, becomes a lack of self-esteem, and it's all underpinning that certainty where we really dig in.
Well, in this, oh, go ahead, Leslie.
Well, I was just going to say, and if we think about the flip side of the stuck triangle being the growth triangle, and the key to growth is allowing in new information, right? And so one of the challenges with certainty is that certainty stops curiosity and openness, doesn't it? Right? When we're certain about something, we're no longer exploring what could be, what's possible, and perhaps we're not even truly present with what is, right? Because we're already certain about what's going to be. And so that's where, you know, we want to temper that certainty. We want to be continually learning and growing and being present with what is in our lives. And so we can balance that certainty with that openness and curiosity.
Mhm. And all of you probably know, because of the inner balance and the other work we do, we look a lot at beliefs that underpin certainty. You know, and this brings to mind, you know, a really heartbreaking, in a sense, situation with my mom. Because when my dad died, my mom couldn't get over, it's not fair. It's not the way it's supposed to be. And she just was so stuck in that it's not fair. And then she did all the behaviors and looked around for how it didn't happen to other people and so on and so forth. And they, you know, if we get our 6 kids raised, then we get to retire together and have this wonderful life. You know, and my brother's 16 and not even quite out the door, and my dad gets sick. So for 2 years, she said, it's not fair. And initially we said, you're right, it's not, and on and, but she was stuck. And then we went on a holiday, much against her will. She came along very grudgingly and was not happy and started to try to organize everybody. So we're in this little chalet, it's a ski holiday, and she wants to know who's on dishes tomorrow night and who's going to cook. And Dave, you brought a lasagna, so we're taking that off the amount you owe. And people are looking at my mom and they're just like, what do we do with her? Like, we can't be mean to her because she's just lost her husband, but like, this is unbearable. And then they're looking at me like, come on, Lynn, you're the oldest, like, fix this. And and I finally said, Mom, this isn't working. And she said the key, I don't know what else to do, and walked out, went to her bedroom, sobbing away, and in I go to see if I can do something now about the sobbing. And she is literally saying, I don't know how to do life now. And I said, I know, but you can learn and we will help you. But you have to let go of doing it the old way. I mean, it was like we were back, all 6 kids, only we're all adults and friends of hers, adults. And she's talking like we're 6. So that's the stuck triangle, you know, and she did get out of it. But boy, it was not easy with that belief. It should be fair. It should be the way I pictured, like you said, Leslie. I'm so sure it's going to work out this way. And then it didn't.
Well, and it's a great example too, when we're under a lot of stress in our life or something as major as losing your husband, then the certainty or the other fears can come up so strongly, and
Oh.
you know, we'll be out of balance or underwater a lot, and
Mhm.
just go back to things that we've learned in the past that used to work.
Mhm.
They've become our go-tos.
That's it.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, from all of you, thinking about the conversation today about certainty and what we discussed up to now, what's changed for you? Do you see anything differently? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Mhm.
Or what stood out for you on this whole conversation about certainty today?
I think.
Sorry, Dave. I'm not looking at Dave. No.
Go ahead, Dave.
He's
You go
just
first.
smiling and
No,
shaking.
no, yeah, go ahead, Katie.
I was just going to say that I think before I began this today, that certainty to me that's a great thing. Like everything about it. Who doesn't like that sense of certainty? But after just, you know, listening to the scenarios and other people's comments, yeah, I can see that it's not all good all the time.
Mhm.
Thank you, Katie.
The word that keeps coming to my mind is trust. Trusting that I don't have to have it all figured out and on a spreadsheet. And that trusting that everything's going to be okay, even when I don't know what's next. And that's so vulnerable and so hard for me.
Mhm.
Great share. You know, you just reminded me something of the other side of certainty, the uncertainty. And I've traveled a lot in my life. And one of the things that I've found a favorite thing to do is just like, basically my traveling is quite unscheduled. So I like to fly into somewhere, travel a few countries and then fly home. And one thing I've enjoyed is like getting little scooters or little rental cars, and I literally go down dead end roads. Like it says dead end or says something like that. There's no traffic there. I have found so many amazing adventures down those roads. I drive to where a car can't go any farther or the moped can't go any farther. And then I get off and there's somewhere there and you walk and next thing you know, I have some amazing view or something. It's been so rare that those dead end roads have actually been a dead end. So the other side is that adventurous unknown that unfolds from spontaneity. Beautiful. I have a very high freedom need. So these things work well for me when I'm outside of certainty.
And that makes
Well,
me so uncomfortable, to be honest.
People are cringing, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Well, and I think that does such a beautiful job of highlighting the other side, right? It was when we're willing to be a little less certain, we may experience great surprises and adventures, right? Who knows what's beyond the certainty?
Yeah.
I could speak a little bit about this. So I'd say 30 years of being in business and being the guy that gets measured every month on performance. It's hard not to be wired for certainty. Keeping many people employed or however you want to look at it. I mean, yeah, it kind of hardwires it into your nervous system. And so over time, that certainty, that need for certainty translates to your family, your kids, your significant relationships. And I can tell you right now, they don't love being micromanaged. And so it hurts friendships, it hurts relationships and things like that. But even within that context of business, when you're in that certainty mode, it really kills creativity, collaboration, a few other C words you could come up with, but you know what I mean? Like it just teamwork, all that really starts to diminish. And definitely the first scenario holds true. You start maybe losing key team members and other things can happen. So it's an interesting road to walk to be to both to honor the process of trying to create stability at the same time with the parenting example, things like that, at the same time not be hyper focused and crazy about creating that certainty. So that in some cases is desirable, and then but other case when you hyper focus it definitely shuts it down, shuts many other important things down. So what I did, I'm not a religious person, but I looked at it as having faith versus control, and like having faith will, in the process, and people and family and coworkers and things like that. So just like kind of having faith at the end of the day.
I like it, Dave. I think when we found something that we've been able to create success with, it makes sense to do more of it, right? And so to let go of it, to have trust or faith, can seem like scary and seem like it could be problematic. I think it's a great point you're making.
Well, and I'll just add one thing. An odd thing that happens when you let go of the certainty but you just honor the process rather than fixate on the certainty, is actually results become more profound and bigger, and then which actually creates certainty in its own way. You know what I mean? So it's the focus on certainty that is the problem. It's not, it's like doing everything to create certainty, for me personally anyways, has been the thing that gets in the way.
Well, and I just want to say, Dave, with what you're saying, and it links with Sherry's, when you don't know that it could work out better, when you haven't ever let go and done it, then what you're missing is invisible to you. You can't see that there could be greater creativity or something at the dead end and so on. And when we look at the costs, it's tricky to help people imagine that there is costs when they haven't seen them. And so it's this kind of conversation, it takes these conversations to start to open the door a little and maybe I'll try it, and maybe I'll just have a little faith and trust here to see what might happen.
Thanks for sharing, Dave.
Mhm.
And so, of course, there'll be a worksheet that will come out in your email inbox to support everyone in working through some of their own examples in your own lives. And you know what, just I always love the organic conversation that comes in these table talks when we dive into a really clear, specific topic. So much comes from that. And I think what, you know, as I pull back and as I listen to all of your shares, I think about, you know, again, it's another place where the value of presence is so clear to me. I can feel certain, and if I'm willing to just take that moment to just become present with what is, take stock, so to speak. You know, if I'm the mom, okay, so what's happening for me right now? What's happening for my child right now? Right. And I can't remember which table talk we talked about self, other, context, right?
Yeah.
But going through those three important elements. So if I'm a leader, yes, what's my role as a leader, right? What does my team need from me, and what does the business need from us collectively, right? And becoming present with all three of those aspects can really help bring that clarity so that we can not get stuck, but rather stay open to that growth and that evolution that's always possible in any given scenario. Right? Where certainty shut things down in each of the scenarios we shared, there were lots of possible outcomes, weren't there?
Yeah, the skill building sheet that we put together, I think, is really fabulous for guiding you through those key steps. You know, pulling back, looking honestly, self-reflection, then discovering blind spots or assumptions and recognizing what fear might be underpinning it. So I think I love these kinds of skill building sheets because inside my head, it's not clear when I'm in the situation that's challenging. But when I take it to a worksheet and start one step at a time, plunking it down, then I feel guided and supported, and I stay more stable so I can take in new information.
Yeah, it's a great point. And that's where we get our direct experience in our own life with what we're talking about instead of the theories and relatable examples. It goes to the next level for ourselves.
Yeah.
I know we have a little time, and I keep having a thought that pops up for me here about staying in uncertainty in a leadership role. And I've shared it before with Lynn and Leslie, but I go to Toastmasters, and there's a young lady there who's like 21, and she was doing a public speaking with 8-year-olds. And so she's like, I can't just talk about public speaking because they don't have the attention span. So she plays games and mixes it up. And so she was playing this game. She's like, okay, the left wall is red and the right wall is white. The right wall is white. Go to your favorite color. And she goes, go. And the kids all go running. And one little girl stays in the middle. And coming from a place of open leadership, this lady said, oh, you're in the middle. What are you doing in the middle? And the little girl says, oh, well, I mean, I like red and I like white, but my favorite color is pink. So I should stay here in the middle, you know? And it was such a brilliant job of this young woman not going to, hey, these are the rules and be certain you had to go here. This is the direction. And it allowed this creativity to emerge by her just asking questions, you know, and letting it happen. So it seems like it touched me when she shared it, and she didn't share it in a way that it was like anything powerful to her. I was like, that was incredibly great leadership. And so it touches on it here for me.
Yeah, I love that story.
A new answer.
A new answer came. Yeah.
Yeah. And so again, this is the first in a series, right? So today we were talking about certainty. Next month, so that's going to be May 15th, we're going to talk about the comparison spiral. And on June 19th, we'll talk about the consistency illusion. And so all of these certainty, comparison, consistency, three things that as human beings we engage with constantly. And they're things that we have, many of us have a framework of, you know, these are all really good things, right? And they are. There is value in certainty. there's value in comparison and consistency as well. And as always with our work, we want to parse things out, pull them apart so that we can become really clear that, just like what Jeff said, even a good thing becomes a bad thing if we're doing it too much, right? So building that awareness of where are all these little areas where we trap ourselves. And so if there's ever a topic that you would love us to pull apart and notice where can we get trapped in this kind of behavior or thinking, then we're always open. We love your suggestions on topics. And we're excited to be building some of our topics into bigger sessions as well. So stay tuned for that. And I'm curious to know if anyone's got any other questions or takeaways from this conversation on certainty today, just as we're wrapping up.
This isn't on topic, Leslie, but I just have to say, Kirsten, you and Michael look so cozy. I know you're out on your patio. They have a fireplace out there and they're under the blankets. It's just hardly fair, isn't it?
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
very cute. Glad to have you.
Love it.
But back to any other takeaways that.
Well, I'll just add this is a timely topic as we've just moved to Vancouver Island and delving into the deep end of uncertainty and over here, although it's, I mean, I try to make it as certain as possible, of course, but anyway, so there's a lot of upside down stuff going on. So this was a perfect timing for this topic for me personally. So I appreciate everyone here and the topic itself.
Wonderful. That's great.
Thank you, Dave.
Congrats.
Yeah, congratulations on your move.
We're coming to visit. How soon is the room available?
Anytime. Yeah.
Wonderful.
If you stay more than a week, I'll start charging your rent though.
Oh.
6 days max.
So like keep it under 7 days.
Wonderful. Well, again, we'll be sending you all the worksheet, which will guide you through similar questions. What's identifying an area in your life where you're feeling certain? What are the fears that might be present? What are you certain of? What might you be missing or blind to? What fears might be underpinning it? And then we're going to guide you into a little bit of assessing the behaviors that link and the costs that are associated. Right? One of the things that's really key when we're maybe stuck in a loop or doing a pattern, it's really great to understand the costs associated, because they're a great motivator for change.
And if you have any challenges when you're doing the worksheet, you can reach out to us at hello@expandingyou.com and we'll answer, or you can watch the video. It'll also be in the same email and we'll give you a bunch of support.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Again, we always love having these conversations, such a valuable way to learn and grow together. So thanks for sharing an hour with us over your day.
Yeah.
Thanks to all of you too. Have a great day.
You too.
You too.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Sherry. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.